Imagine getting reincarnated, where boys are the submissive ones and girls run the world, just like what Beyonce sings about. In this universe, it is women who govern, fight, and lead, while the male species are in scarcity that women hide their men like they're as valuable as money. Feeling appreciated already? Well, only twinks and petite guys are accepted here. Except for our MC, who looks like a fluffy teddy bear with his muscles that he thinks are ugly enough to get married, but this dude is a man in the women's field. Women who are known to have a vast sense of tension, and yet he remained a virgin, just like most of my viewers here. You might think you want to get reincarnated in this universe with that masochistic kinks of yours, but think again, because not all women here want to clap your ugly ass. It all started with our MC, Faust von Polidoro, bowing his head down as he faced the kingdom's queen. He's recently become a ruler of Faustdom, his kingdom, yet he could never get used to facing the queen. As big as his figure, this dude was looking depressed and stressed, which made Valerie concerned for her advisor. Well, it turns out that this prick was bowing his head not concerning the queen, but to try and save his life from getting a huge boner because of the queen's clothing. My guy was fighting wars of head and metal, as he could see the view a little too much from the queen. His little junior was already hurting, but if his schlong was gonna pop out, it would be the end of his career as a knight, or worse, his life. The great knight that lives in his metal shaft was already in full mast. It's a risk to keep sight of the queen. He's trying his best not to succumb to temptation and green thoughts by clenching his fist until it bleeds. Anyway, enough of his majestic balls. The reason why he's here is to defend Valerie and convince the queen that Valerie mustn't fight against bandits for her first battle. However, the more she moves, the more this poor guy gets frustrated that he has to use Valerie as a shield for his poor Red Jr. He hid behind her, acting like he was so desperate not to give in to Valerie into this mission. That sudden move made Valerie shy and red until the queen spoke up and said that her decision to put Valerie's first battle to fighting bandits was important, so she demanded him to raise his head. Not because of some determination, but because the crack in front of him was too good not to clap. Although he can't, so his head remains low, except for the head below. The queen approached them close, and the view was now on 8K HD Pro Max. Exterminating bandits is something completely beneath you, is that it? The queen asked MC. But really, I don't think this is fighting for Valerie's safety, but it's already fighting for his blue balls that he can no longer take. He stood up immediately, which made everyone tense with how this frustrated man looked. They tried calming him down while the queen realized how determined the man in front of her was. She knows MC as someone who has wrath and is great on the battlefield. Maybe in bed too, but MC also assisted the queen's first daughter, Princess Anastasia, in the war against Willendorf. In that mission, MC could slay 10 barbarian knights, fight the enemy's commander, and take her head personally. So, it's not the queen's intention to make light of the hero of the Great War. This praise somehow calmed MC's big ego and lightsaber, and his aura shifted lightly. The hero and the queen went on to this debate for Valerie, only for him to find out that the queen had already made a royal decree, so now MC was free to excuse himself. It's good how bro managed to get home early. Valerie thanked MC for being his advisor and for not getting the genes of her mother's roundness, fluffiness, and overall fats. After this meeting, Valerie's expedition was granted a withdrawal from the national budget as she saw fit for the expedition. Meanwhile, on Queen Listenlot's mind was something else entirely, the moment she laid eyes on the thick man. She thinks she made a mistake letting him be an advisor to the second princess, seeing how determined of a knight this dude's eyes are. Without knowing the reason was the voluptuous weight she was carrying that he wanted to carry for workout purposes. Anyway, she thought she offended the Knight of Wrath, but it was all just an act when things calmed down at the end. His mannerisms and personality reminded Listenlot of her late husband. She is low-key attracted to the heart of a man like that, and it seems like the taste in men is passed down from mother to daughter. This is concerning because the first daughter, Anastasia, began to grow obsessed with the fluffy bear, and for the 9th time, Sigmund Freud's soul has grown stronger daily. Listenlot wanted to give MC to Anastasia and leave Valerie nothing but the possibility of getting executed. It has always been like this with the sisters. Valerie lived in the shadow of Anastasia and Astarte. But it all changed when she found MC. As heartless of a mother Gothel can be, Listenlot announced that if Valerie were to fail on her expedition, then MC would be given to Anastasia instead. Hearing that punishment got Valerie spiraled down, thinking that it was unfair to be a spare of her sister, especially when she found MC first 2 years ago at a bar. Valerie was still 12 years old, while MC was still 19. A 7-year gap doesn't hurt, does it? Wrong. Don't be an idiot. The minor Valerie was trying to push her authority to MC, convincing him to become her advisor. She thinks that giving him a chance to see her mom would be enough, and if it's money that he wants, she can also provide. MC was enjoying these offers, and it seemed like seeing the golden beehives of her mother was enough to convince him though. Anyway, she said she could pull ties for him to join the sword tournament and become the strongest, but that seemed impossible since men are just twinks in this world. However, Valerie was determined to get him on the team of someone who can never be number one, so MC agreed. Since then, he has sworn himself to Valerie, and he is a groomer somehow for doing this. Meanwhile, right after the audience with the queen, MC went to the palace's garden to envelop himself with the flowers around him. Here he was rethinking his life decision to become the advisor of the second princess because no good had ever come to him after that. He thought he could return to guarding his land, but he was wrapped in this mayhem of invasion and war not long after. Not to mention the long, uselessly intense audience with the queen, which always leaves him problematic with his chastity belt. And now he is assigned to babysit the princess as she goes to her first battle against the bandits. While he was enjoying his alone time with the flowers, a pair of palace maids were judging the big bear for sniffing the flowers with his muscles. "Is he trying to prove there's still some trace of a man left in him by seeing the flowers?" said one of the maids. MC can hear them loud and clear. No, he's not there for the flowers. The standard of this world is not so far different from ours, but from a perspective of a man that likes someone petite and delicate like an effing flower. Meanwhile, he is an ugly eyesore for having muscles and a big body. But I disagree because Shrek is like that too. All hail Shrek. Anyway, this woman's world is nonsense for someone like MC. Because you'd be face to face with the finest crack, in one moment you'd be shit talked to your face. It's both a huge pain in the meat. MC was willing to ignore those commentaries about his body, but these retards thought that attacking his mother would be a good idea. His mom, the last ruler of the Pilduro domain, became a widow early in her married life. Her relatives keep on telling her to remarry and give birth to a girl, but she refuses. She must have loved her husband that much, so even though he's a boy, his mother taught him governance, territory management, swordplay, and strategy, the kind of things a girl would be taught. This was strange for the young MC because he was born with vivid memories of his past life, but he never questioned it. He accepted it all and paved his way to become the best for this new world and his new mother. He even studies late at night and does battle training. Although a male knight was practically unheard of, he asked the head squire Helga about it and she could barely look him in the eye. Later on, his mother's body began to weaken and she had no time left. But despite that, she still forced herself up from bed to teach a man how to survive in this world. It was when he was 20 that his mother's condition worsened and there was not much left to teach him. And so at the young age of 35, his mother passed. It was then that MC fully understood who she was. So it's unacceptable how these lowly maids talk shit about his mother, who has bigger lands than both of their bazookas combined. MC gave them a fair warning by poking their nose until it bleeds. A few minutes later, a menacing aura engulfed the atmosphere as a woman general walked in and saw such a disgraceful act before her. It was the famous Duchess Astarte, who wasn't in the mood. She looked down at MC with disgust as she tried to understand what was happening in front of her. This woman has the capability of beheading anyone because her rank is bigger than your fix. The other maid explained that MC suddenly assaulted them, but MC calmly explained that these maids said his mother picked him up from the enemy country, Willendorf. That seems more offensive and true, so Astarte looked at the maids and kicked them in the face. Boys may be submissive in this world, but equality exists. And so Astarte apologized to MC, and the tension between them has eased down. You see, even though they're in different factions, the two are kind friends who have fought the war side by side. However, the downside about her is how she openly harasses him, like how she slapped his hand in the open place such as the palace, praising MC for getting thicker than the last time they met each other. This woman is an ass woman, and although this may come off as an offensive harassment, MC was low-key liking it. It won't be a problem to clap this woman if they both want to, knowing he's a booby man. But the conservative side of MC in giving his first to his wife was a blockage to such golden mangas. In that case, Astarte has no problem marrying this man just to get those eggs. Astarte is close to kissing MC but is stopped by an angry Princess Anastasia. The battle of buoyancy has begun. MC has fought alongside these women in war, and now both are at war over the same man. Anastasia can't let her advisor get the man of her dreams, saying that the royal family will never allow her family to get entwined with MCs. But Astarte was being casual about it, not giving a duck about factions as long as she'll get laid by a big man with that cuffing seasoned body. Aside from that, Anastasia asked MC if he was considering her offer to leave her sister and be her advisor instead. Of course, it's too late to change court and leave his flat princess behind. His only reason, I have my own heart too. That answer was enough to make Anastasia's heart full because it reminded her of her father. Although her father treats Valerie as the first princess, it's the way he supports the people of his land and treats all the troops as equals. That kind of man captured her heart, and she can see it in MC. Freud must be proud. As she left MC, the devilish Astarte began to whisper in her ears that they should become MC's lovers so that they could get clapped legally. They were plotting to R-word MC, something that could be duke up if the gender were to swap. Anyway, Anastasia was unsure about agreeing to such an act, but Astarte assured her they could control the situation for as long as MC could still have his land. Now that it's decided that Valerie must go on with her expedition, she must write the expenses she needs. However, her face turned into disgust as she saw that the guards requested a budget for their fun activity at the brothel. Meanwhile, the scene shifts, showing a massive mansion. A lady merchant named Ingrid paid MC a visit to his mansion. Helga, MC's butler and right-hand woman, greeted Ingrid. MC has been waiting for her visit. Ingrid is the exclusive purveyor of this and a coming big-shot aristocrat, so having to work with the Pildoros since MC's mom's generation has been a huge help to her merchant guild. Knowing her mom was enough to keep the lineage loyal to Ingrid's business, and for that same reason she visited MC personally at his mansion, which was given to him by the princess and the queen. Ingrid has done multiple business with MC, and for him she was willing to pull any strings and use everything in her hands to fulfill his requests. From enhancing his magic-infused greatsword to mending chainmail that can fit his hulking body. Now, the biggest problem that his loyal customer has been facing is something she can only solve. Hopefully, it is so serious that the information shared in that room could never leave it. The problem lies in between his belt, which grows bigger and thicker and hurts him like hell. Ingrid turned red, knowing she had already got his chastity belt custom-made to fit his monstrous sword. MC can't live with the fact that his enormous snake would get exposed for the world to see if his belt were to give up. It's either the belt breaking or his sword snapping in half. That kind of problem was hard to look for a solution. Ingrid feels like questioning how he even gets excited so often in the first place. MC's answer was simple: that's just how men are sometimes. Which is true, like how yours behave 80% of the time in this manga, except they're worms and not snakes. Making a bigger belt is one solution, but having it built like that would leave a mark like it would be on a guy's gray jogger pants. It doesn't look very demure and very noble, so it wouldn't be ideal. If he were to be a pretty boy, he might get jumped on at any moment, so having a bulge as a big man won't be valid in a woman's ears. Aside from that, he doesn't even have a wife or a woman to make an excuse that a big chastity is for his own protection, so it's a hopeless cause. Speaking of the wife, Ingrid heard of a rumor that Astarte has been pursuing MC lately, recommending that she would sound like a suitable wife. But MC refuses that idea and thinks she's bound to marry someone who's suitable for her position as a duchess. Another problem with finding a wife is that he's not popular among girls, but Ingrid refuses to believe that. Her merchant senses say that Astarte is far more serious about marrying him than how he believes it would be. But what's bothering her most is the mansion itself. She knew the second princess couldn't pull something this grand for the queen to organize for MC. Unless they protect MC and want to keep him like a caged bird. She wanted to tell MC about her solid opinion of Astarte's passion for him, but she must play it cool, or she'd misunderstand. She'd rather go bankrupt than get on the bad side of Astarte. Ingrid got so lost in her train of thought that she wasn't listening to what MC was saying. He was so ready to hear her solution, but all she got to say was, maybe you should just stop trying to hide your excitement instead. That wasn't so helpful. Right after Ingrid's visit, MC can be seen pondering the idea of getting married to better protect his junior, but noble bloods don't have a good taste in men. Helga was getting so fed up that she told her master to look for a woman from his lands instead. MC was surprised at how upfront she became, but she just wanted it to get over. Aside from that, she also suggests looking at Valerie's guards because they're all second or third daughters of nobles, so it counts. However, MC recalled Valerie describing them as chimpanzees. But are they really? On the other hand, Valerie called out for her captain Zabine to give her a chance to explain the budget for a brothel visit for mental health purposes. That's when the captain of her guard, Zabine with the two big O's, came in. She reported that she and the other 15 guards don't want to die being a virgin, so she proposed putting a budget for them to see heaven on earth before actually going to heaven for real. It doesn't sound right to Valerie's ears though, so of course she refuses to give them the budget. Or how is she going to explain that thing to the queen? Zabine was so upset that she crashed out hard to die a virgin, which was unfair to Valerie because she was also a virgin. That sparked up hope in Zabine, but nothing would convince this kid to go to a brothel before her first fight. She wanted them to spend their own money if they were desperate, but their wages barely sustained themselves. Valerie's situation has gotten so serious that she broke down in her office for having such idiot nights. Well, it wouldn't be surprising since these girls were assigned by her mother, who sees Valerie as a dumping site for the useless ones. Valerie had to work with whatever she could have, and if she failed, they would take MC away from her. Sabine, not wanting to be abandoned just like her mother did to her, cried to Valerie, tackling her as she begged not to throw them away. She and the other guards were just like Valerie, neglected by their mothers, like 70% of my viewers as well. So she assured Sabine that she wouldn't cast them aside, followed by a great tale of the mighty hero man Faust, or MC, who raised his sword to fight Willendorf's strongest knight. And that same man will be guiding them through this mission, so they shouldn't be fatalistic about it. Now that she mentioned it, using her advisor to take the precious pearls inside them wouldn't be a bad idea. That idea terrified the petite loli, especially since MC was coming up to her doorstep for the meeting they were about to have. She had to knock her touch-deprived away to avoid a weird conversation with her advisor. Right after the failed convincing and getting the budget, Sabine and the 15 guards went to their regular cheap bar for drinks before their expedition the day after. They were so disappointed to hear the news, but what did they expect? However, one of the guard thinks that they should just accept it and move on. That got her bullied by the other virgins. It was a chaotic moment for the ladies until Sabine said this would be solved with Lord Polidoro MC. The idea was getting mixed reactions since each lady had their own tastes. Some prefer shadas, the other is a twink trailer, while the chubby chase was silenced out of embarrassment and low-key considering it. As for the others, their kinks are far weirder and unusual, such as this whole expansion. What the heck even is that kind of domain? Anyway, Sabine's way of speech convinced the others, which would be a great deal for the whole troupe to do their best in bed with MC. Meanwhile, the one who is opposed in the first place is actually a lesbian. Not surprising. Fast forward to the big day. Valerie walked the hall of the palace with her armor. She went to her sister's room first, which scared her at first, thinking Anastasia would sabotage her first expedition by either locking her up in a room or having her killed right now. But in reality, Anastasia was giving the Washington speech that he gave with Hamilton for his first command. Even the monologue wasn't far different from the musical. Anyway, Anastasia was trying not to give much softness to her sister, so she dismissed her immediately. Valerie went out with her troop of 15 royal guards and 20 troops from MC's unit. Just a few hours after walking towards the village where the bandits were, Sabine and the others were already melting from the heavy chainmail. Blame that to the hangover they had, and most especially to Sabine for letting the others drink a lot the night prior. The health of the troops matters most, so they had to take a few minutes of break. Meanwhile, Valerie was already tense and nervous, thinking that this small break could be an ambush, getting really sensitive to the smallest noise she heard. You can't really blame the child who never left the palace suddenly getting the mission of exterminating a group of bandits. 3 days have passed since everyone went out for their mission, and we can see Sabine and the others happily marching with such vulgar song. Nothing else would get the spirit of a virgin than singing about how the sacred rising hot dog feels good for you and me. Even MC was surprised to see the troops getting more energetic than they were 3 days ago. It's like they shared the same egg cell. As for Valerie, she feels embarrassed of her guards' words and actions, but Sabine argued that singing a song while marching has been a soldier's right since ancient times. Valerie has no argument about that. It just happened that they have a schlong owner with them, so it wouldn't be appropriate. Having that pointed out was like a dramatic realization to the girls, so they all stopped and now the atmosphere is awkward. It's too late for that now though. Valerie had to apologize for the vulgar words from her troop, but MC didn't really mind it and was just lost for words at the sheer deplorability, whatever that word meant. As for Sabine, she was far from being regretful and suggested singing a heroic ballad instead, but MC's dog instinct says that they're close to the enemy's turf, so he tells everyone to be on guard and lower their flag. MC's troop readied the crossbow, a weapon saw for the first time in person. The tension grew heavy as MC asked Helga to take a look. As Helga used her binoculars, she saw the village already pillaged. There are dead bodies as well, and so the real mission has started. As they march towards where the village's headwoman is, there are corpses and women everywhere. Some were hanged, while some were brutally injured and died. It was a total bloody tragedy, and in the distance was the very injured headswoman. She collapsed in Valerie's arms, so they had to take her back to one of the standing houses. There, the headwoman reported that there were 100 bandits that attacked the village and left with their boys and money. It was MC's turn to interrogate the headwoman, and he was harsher than Valerie. He questioned her safety and why she was still alive. He doesn't trust her one bit, but the head woman defends herself and shamefully admits that she's alive because when the bandits attacked the village, she was shot with a crossbow in the arm before passing out and falling on her saddle. That information was different from the one they received. So another question is, how did the village with more than 100 women not get to hold out for at least a few days? The head woman further explained that there were originally 30 bandits, but the nearby village struggled with their succession until it turned into a blood feud and a battle between forces occurred. Eventually, the first daughter and knight, Caroline von Bogel, won and killed her sister before attacking the village. The fear in Valerie's eyes grew bigger as she realized that it was a knight's doing and not just mere bandits. It's suspicious for MC to know how the headswoman was well informed of the situation. She defended herself by saying that a messenger arrived from the first daughter to warn them about Caroline, but she's just an incompetent leader who can't even wipe her own arse. They sent out the information to the capital, but Valerie's troop must have left by the time it arrived. The headwoman tried to gather all the men and boys to take shelter in her residence, but they didn't stand a chance. She was ashamed and disappointed in her failure, but Valerie was soft enough to comfort her. However, deep inside, even Valerie doesn't know what to do. She turned to MC and asked what to do now, so MC said that they should predict the enemy's next move. With that, he explained that the enemy must be going to take refuge at the Willendorf border. Caroline's next move is likely to escape across it, but before they can continue their mission, they must consider that the enemy force is at least 100, 35 versus 100 is impossible. Even if they were to rely on reinforcement, it wouldn't be certain for them to hold on for a few days. The decision is taking a heavy toll on Valerie since she can't have her advisor taken by her sister. There's too much to lose if she's gonna fail now, and this brought her deeper into a turmoil of anxiety and terror. However, on her side was Zabine's different personality. She was someone willing to put her life on the line in the name of being a hero once she returned to the kingdom. If they do that, then they'll be famous among the boys and they'll be gushing waterfalls for weeks. It's the only thing that keeps her motivated. Still, it's up to MC and his decision if it's safe to proceed. As much as he doesn't want Valerie's first mission to be a failure, it wouldn't be ideal to put everyone's life in danger, so they have no choice but to retreat. Valerie undergoes all of the 5 stages of grief, from denial bargaining to real quick acceptance. She was singing a song about being a poor little failure who couldn't save one itty-bitty village, so now she's ready to leave the head woman's house like a frightened mouse. However, when she got out, there was already chaos outside, with her guards trying to keep the village woman from tackling the princess. They were begging her to save them in their village, wailing her name and wailing for help. Valerie was engulfed by a lot of tension and pressure as everyone relied on her to save them. Later, MC goes out of the house and orders the knights to bring Valerie out of there as they leave the chaos to him. As for the headswoman, she was telling everyone to calm down. Meanwhile, Helga told the others that they were retreating. They were asking Zabine about it, not wanting to go back to the capital as a failure and the possibility of being cast out. Even Zabine didn't know what to do as the guards were complaining. That's when Zabine noticed that Valerie wasn't on her side and saw her getting mobbed by the village's women, begging to be saved. Valerie looked terrified and shocked, and that's when Zabine's personality changed into more like a knight than the scaredy cat that she was before. She stood by her master's side asking if these peasants were bothering her. Valerie said she was fine and shouldn't worry about her, but Zabine wouldn't believe her and took care of it anyway by beating out their lights. I don't mind if they recently just got attacked and whatever. The other guards cheered on Zabine while Helga and MC just observed. On the other hand, Valerie was concerned Zabine might go feral and hurt herself. But no matter how much Valerie tries to stop her, Zabine is a stubborn little prick. She was giving out a speech about how these incompetent women are good as corpses for being alive and not giving a damn about those who were killed for them. Her harsh words made Valerie worry about her safety, so she asked MC to go to Zabine. She makes fun of these women who are dumb and cowards for not standing up, and eventually she convinces them to take their pitchforks and stand up with them as they fight Caroline's troops. They somehow got brainwashed by her and now they have a militia of women thinking it's enough to convince MC not to retreat. On the other hand, MC was surprised about Zabine's capability to turn mere villagers into soon-to-be carrion. It seems like Zabine crossed the line and forgot her duty as a noble, but Zabine doesn't care since she's just giving them another purpose in life rather than being a good-for-nothing corpse. MC had to make things clear that he could not turn the tide of a battle by himself, unlike Lady Astarte, which is why Zabine gave him more troops, right? Well, it isn't that easy. They have other problems to face aside from manpower. If they were to catch Caroline before she crosses into Willendorf, they have to make it within 3 days, and it's a doubt that their militia could keep up the pace. Even if they got extra numbers, it isn't certain that they will make it out alive. Hearing that, Valerie wanted to stop them from proceeding, but the guards stopped her from changing their minds. Going back as a hero drives these girls to fight for their lives, so they're using as many assets as they can find. Even the almost dead head woman will be commanded to lead the other half of their militia, which she agrees to regain her name. The only obstacle at this moment was Valerie, who didn't agree with the idea of putting their lives in danger. But the villagers had a burning fury in them that it was too late to put out. They're all ready to die anyway, but Valerie cares so much about her people that she couldn't take that kind of heartbreak. You can't blame a cute lolly because this is her first time. Sabine knows that her master is scared to die, and she feels that way too. She may be a drunkard and a jokester most of the time, but Zeba knows that the weight of going back to the capital empty-handed would change everything for everybody. So, she would rather die as a knight of the second princess and stay by her side forever. And it's not just Zaban, the other 15 guards also feel the same way. That speech made Valerie reconsider the decision, but it all lies in MC's final words. As for him, Zabanese speech didn't do much emotional damage. However, if they proceed with this mission, he demands an extra reward and wants to get a big slice out of it. So be it, Valerie said with determination. They'll be squeezing out lots from this mission and Valerie will do everything she can to compensate her knights. With that, MC laughed out loud and rustled Valerie's helmet, feeling relieved to be reminded that what he hates most is an incompetent leader. And that's something Valerie isn't. With that, everyone was chanting and hyping each other up for this new dangerous mission. Meanwhile, Helga taps MC's shoulder, saying she got a strong recommendation for his future wife, who also has great baba. Helga is the best wingman that MC was ever thankful for, but when she pointed at the crazy captain of the night, Zabine, he retreated immediately. She might fit his ideal, but she's a noble who told common folk they ought to die, and MC wants his woman to have morals. Helga disagrees with him though, and agrees with what Zabine said to the villagers there. Although you can't blame a woman who grew up with the culture of war. Being a savage is normal to her. MC has a type too and pretty much stands on his ideals, so Zabine is out of the list. More importantly than relationships, they have to mentally prepare themselves with the death list from now on. Queen Lysanlot sat on her throne, radiating serious energy that made even the air feel heavier. If looks could kill, Duchess Astarte would already be on her way to respawn. Speaking of, Astarte was currently engaged in an intense diplomatic discussion with the back of her eyelids. Straight up passed out. Mid-meeting, Lysanlot's death glare could have melted steel beams. But nope, Astarte was in dreamland, probably scheming up battle strategies against her REM cycles. The queen tried subtly to clear her throat. No dice. She asked about the campaign prep. Astarte twitched like a raccoon caught in someone's trash, muttered something unintelligible, and then resumed her nap. Lysanlot, officially one inconvenience away from losing her last brain cell, finally snapped and yelled her name. That did the trick. Astarte bolted upright, looking like she had just had sleep paralysis with a demon standing at the foot of her bed. To her credit, she got her act together real quick. She explained that moving 200 men took prep, and they'd be ready to go tomorrow. This did not sit right with Lysanlot. Tomorrow was basically next year. Astarte sighed and hit her with the old logistics are a thing speech, the same way a tired customer service worker explains to a guy screaming about a 20-minute wait that they don't control time. Meanwhile, Valerie and her army were already out there, causing stress-induced breakdowns in merchant guilds and laborers. Lysanlot was not comforted. She already knew she couldn't stop her daughter, but that didn't mean she had to like it. Astarte, on the other hand, had an even bigger issue. Valerie's chosen route, a certified clown move. One wrong turn and they'd be marching to their deaths. War Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. And if anyone was to blame for this upcoming geopolitical disaster, it was MC. Astarte made a mental note to hit him with the meanest side-eye known to mankind. But she had a plan. Instead of letting Valerie raw dog fate, they just beat her to the border. She'd already schemed this out with Anastasia. The key? Caroline. If oh so tragically her wagon suffered an unfortunate oopsie moment, maybe a wheel just happened to fall off, then her group would be forced to stop and forage. That delay would buy them time to bail Valerie out before she did something historically stupid. Lysanlot, already on the brink, was now fully spiraling. Her daughter was acting off. She's worried Valerie might make questionable choices. Astarte, meanwhile, had many questions. If Lysanlot was this stressed about her kid making aggressively bad life choices, why yeet her into battle? But instead of voicing that, she just hit her with a, she's probably crying in a ditch somewhere. That did not help. Lysanlot doubled down on the motherly breakdown. Astarte, confused, asked what the big deal was. It turns out that if Valerie fumbled this bag, MC would get taken away from her. That was apparently the true tragedy of the century. Astarte smirked at the sheer pettiness, which earned her the patented mom glare of doom. To make matters worse, Astarte casually roasted Valerie's army, calling them a collection of medieval Florida men. That also did not help. Listenlot was now in full-blown crisis mode. Astarte, fully embracing the role of unhelpful friend watching the drama unfold, reminded her this was all self-inflicted. She handpicked these unhinged warriors. The queen swore she had chosen respectable women. Instead, she got a traveling circus of lunatics. But that was tomorrow's problem. The only thing that mattered now was the royal family's reputation. If their enemies breathed so much wrong, Astarte would be throwing hands. At least Astarte was reliable. Listenlot dumped responsibility for Valerie onto her. Then, in a plot twist, Astarte revealed Anastasia had already done the same. Listenlot was shocked. Astarte was tired. She thought Valerie was mid. It's not absolute garbage, but does not carry the main character's energy. But orders were orders. Meanwhile, an entire army of women had just crawled to the Willendorf border, looking like they had been kicked out of a Renaissance fair for being too feral. They claimed to be fugitives seeking shelter. They were battered, exhausted, and radiating the same energy as someone realizing they had left their wallet at home after ordering a full meal. Enter Caroline. Hope, in the form of one very valiant woman. She recognized these women as her own. She rallied them with the energy of a gym bro hyping up a friend who just failed a bench press. She personally carried the wounded despite looking like she was about to pass out herself. They set up camp for the night. Alone, Caroline did what all tragic war leaders do, blaming herself for everything. Her reason for fighting was simple. She wanted her noble status back, even if it meant losing her daughter completely. Once she would have given up everything for her. Now, that ship had sailed and sunk. Her daughter was probably dead. All that was left was the mission. She hadn't always been like this. She used to be successful, respected. Then her people betrayed her and she speed ran her way to rock bottom. Even if she made it to Willendorf, she'd have nothing left. So, she wanted revenge. She wanted victory. And she was going to get both, even if she had to commit several war crimes along the way. Valerie's army of unhinged warrior women was out here chanting about ding-dongs like they were at a medieval frat party. One of them heard a rumor that if you got injured in battle, you might score some sort of medieval disability reward. Naturally, they considered if it was worth taking a strategic crossbow bolt to the leg. They knew the odds of dying were high, so they threw meaningful glances at the injured village chief. He was about to have the weirdest night of his life. Hannah, the only one trying to be serious, scolded them for being unserious. She was ignored. The others were more interested in experiencing some exciting things while they were still alive. Morality? Never heard of her. The whole pack turned to Valerie, their princess, waiting for her decree. Silence stretched before she finally permitted them to go absolutely feral. MC overheard this and immediately regretted all of his life choices. With that green light, the army turned their stupidity into a gambling event. Their game? Where are Caroline and the others? Whoever guessed closest to her location won bragging rights and a smidge of dignity. First up was Hannah, who had no clue. The others jeered, hyping her up to make a guess. Then, in true toxic fashion, they roasted her for being a virgin, as if that had anything to do with military strategy. Pressured beyond reason, Hannah blurted out a random guess, the hill in front of them. The others groaned, reminding her that MC had literally said the enemy border was still far away. She was declared the loser and left behind in disgrace. Then, in a perfect display of irony, they crested the hill and found Caroline's army camped below. Hannah had been right all along. They stood in stunned silence, realizing they had clowned themselves harder than ever before. Caroline's camp was an odd sight. It had been days since she had run off, so they expected her to be way further. But here she was, posted up like a lost tourist. Valerie's squad did a quick head count. They had 15 members of the guard, 20 chaotic townsfolk from Polidoro, including Helga, 30 extra villagers, and of course MC. 65 lunatics in total. MC squinted at Caroline's army and noted she seemed weirdly chill for someone about to get folded like an omelet. Everyone turned to MC, waiting for his wisdom. He pointed out that the enemy definitely noticed them, but Caroline had no idea how many troops Valerie had. Advantage them. He suggested they hold back and let Caroline make the first move since she had more troops than expected. Reality hit. Even Valerie's army of battle-hungry maniacs went quiet. They knew if things went south, their combined strength wouldn't be enough to protect her. Helga did some recon and confirmed Caroline had 122 soldiers, 41 cavalry, 81 infantry, and 2 wagons. The infantry had weapons and crossbows, which meant they could attack from a distance. Bad news. MC also noticed the carriages had separated from the cavalry. Caroline might have gone with them. MC realized what was happening. The remaining soldiers were just there to stall them. Caroline was making a run for it. Without hesitation, he decided to scatter the enemy and let Valerie take command. Helga would handle the civilians. MC stepped forward, his presence sending a chill down the spines of even his own allies. The enemy soldiers spotted him, one lone man approaching on horseback like he was the final boss in a video game. They assumed he was an idiot, grossly underestimating him. The enemy leader, unaware of the impending disaster, ordered the crossbowmen to aim at him. Unfortunately for her, Valerie's side also had crossbows, and Helga didn't hesitate to take advantage. She ordered her troops to fire, and their first shot sent an arrow straight through the enemy leader's skull. Immediate kill, instant regret for the rest of them. The hesitation was all MC needed. He tore through the remaining soldiers like a human hurricane, his sword slicing through flesh like butter. The battlefield turned into a horror movie set as enemy soldiers started dropping like flies. Some hyped themselves up with motivational speeches about how he was just one guy and they could totally take him. Then MC cut another dozen of them down in seconds and their morale shattered. Desperation turned to madness. Some started making unhinged threats, swearing they'd capture MC and do unspeakable things to him. MC, unfazed, continued carving a path through them like a lawnmower through overgrown grass. Meanwhile, Helga and Sabine were watching the carriages. Something weird was happening. The enemy had split up. The clueless foot soldiers assumed this meant victory and started celebrating. Valerie, however, asked what the plan was. That was when Sabine, in peak chaotic energy, went into full performance mode. She loudly declared herself Duchess Astarte, putting on the most ridiculous impression of nobility anyone had ever seen. Then she narrates MC's absolute destruction of the enemy as if he were a legendary executioner sent by the gods. Sabine wasn't content with just hyping up MC. She doubled down, loudly proclaiming that Valerie's army was massive and unstoppable. She made up an entire legend about them being war masters, here to wipe their enemies off the map. The remaining enemy soldiers, already traumatized, did not question this. Their morale crumbled. Sabine's bizarre act had convinced them they were hopelessly outmatched. She had just bluffed an entire army into submission. Valerie, sensing the perfect opportunity, gave MC the signal. It was time. He would go after Caroline, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop him. MC is out here serving the main character's energy, gripping his sword like he's about to drop the hardest anime fight scene. His eyes lock on a group of unsuspecting women, on horseback, completely unaware their peaceful road trip is about to turn into a horror movie. With all the grace of a dude who's watched too many action movies, he charges in like a medieval thirst trap. But then, a roadblock, a female soldier stands in his way, holding a kid as a human meat shield. She demands he surrender, but MC, being the absolute menace he is, casually peeks into the kid's cage and with pure dad strength, rips open the bars. Meanwhile, Valerie's scam is officially falling apart as the enemy soldiers realize Sabine's speech was one big fat lie. MC tosses the kids toward Helga like, "Here, take these, I've got some murder to do." His voice reaches Caroline's squad, and suddenly it's girl boss panic mode. Caroline immediately clocks what's about to happen. "The Night of Wrath," she mutters, fully aware she's about to get ratioed in real life. Meanwhile, her squad is weirdly into it, giggling and joking about how iconic it would be to get obliterated by him. Caroline, being the only one thinking straight, tells them to run. But self-blame takes over as they all compete for the gold medal in the self-blame Olympics. Caroline takes it up a notch, roasting herself and dropping a whole emo monologue about how she's the worst person ever. While Caroline is spiraling, MC casually deletes her getaway driver, slicing off the coachman's head like it's a depressing birthday cake. The injured women hiding in the carriages hear the splurge sound and whisper like kids telling ghost stories. MC notices one of them has a gnarly leg wound. Bingo! Proof Caroline is smuggling the wounded. Just as Caroline finally turns around, there he is, fresh off a murder spree. Then plot twist. A random woman dropkicks Caroline's horse, sending her blasting off like Team Rocket. This woman is ready to be the ultimate sacrifice, standing her ground so Caroline can escape. It works. MC hesitates, watching her shrink into the horizon. Big mistake. An injured woman whips out a crossbow and shoots him right through the mouth. The pain is probably excruciating, but MC just eats it. He doesn't flinch. Instead, he does what he does best. Massacre mode, Trapped and helpless, the injured women freeze as MC lifts his sword high, then whoosh, the carriage gets shredded like a piñata. Limbs, blood, absolute carnage. Looking like something straight out of a creepypasta, MC rips the arrow from his face, barely acknowledging the blood. Then a voice calls out, mocking. Going back home? Willendorf. Enemy territory. Some enemy soldiers somehow survived MC's rampage, which is honestly kinda embarrassing for him. One woman with a busted leg knows she's about to get logged off permanently, but at least she won't die alone. Caroline really pulled a friendship as magic move because these women are still ride or die for her. They know they are about to get wrecked but are committed to the bit. MC, still on his stallion, looks like a medieval Doom guy and charges with his sword raised. The women load their crossbows, fully confident like this is a final boss fight. Caroline, realizing she's the reason for this tragic KD ratio, yells for them to chill. She suggests something radical, just saying sorry. The soldiers, however, would rather speedrun death than grovel. They tell Caroline she'd better be ready to escape alone, because they are going out like warriors. Caroline snaps, "No more revenge, no more deaths." But her soldier insists on protecting her, even if it means a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Caroline protests, but they just want to see her live, even at the cost of their own lives. Finally, she understands. It was never just about her vendetta, it was about their pride, their loyalty, their honor. She looks at them one last time, tears in her eyes, and runs. MC, tired of all this melodrama, rolls his eyes. He's got places to be and people to kill. The last few enemy soldiers still stand in his way, even taunting him, which is bold, considering he just turned their friends into ground beef. He grabs a discarded spear and, with Olympic-level precision, yeets it straight into one woman's head. Game over. Without stopping to admire his work, he loots the bodies, checks his map, and estimates where Caroline is running. Meanwhile, Caroline is speedrunning her escape. The Willendorf border is in sight. She pushes her horse harder, feeling the rush of freedom. She made it. She actually freaking made it. Then, thwack! A spear impales her horse, instantly deleting it from existence. She is sent flying, landing like a bag of bricks. Scrambling up, she staggers toward her fallen horse, whispering her gratitude. She's lost everything, but now she gets it. It's no longer about revenge or honor, just moving forward. Even if she dies a disgraced fugitive, even if her name is wiped from history, she won't look back. No more regrets, no more what-ifs. She will face whatever comes next, no matter how brutal. With blood leaking from her head like a faulty ketchup bottle, Caroline hauls herself forward. No thoughts, just run. MC is on her tail, and she cannot afford to look back. Exhaustion drags at her, but survival is non-negotiable. After hours, she spots a flickering campfire civilization, or at least people who won't immediately kill her. The Willendorf soldiers at the camp eye her with disgust, and she mirrors their energy, fighting off dizziness. The vibes are rancid, but she introduces herself, fugitive status and all. They confirm they're border guards, but instead of accepting or rejecting her, they test her. Did she cross alone? They do not trust her. Fair, she's a mess. Bloodied, exhausted, a walking red flag. She tells them she has important intel. The camp falls silent, then erupts in laughter. No wealth, no hostages, nothing but herself. They heard her tragic monologue across the river and rewarded her with the ultimate disrespect, the middle finger. Then they shove weapons in her face like a joke. Caroline does not take that lightly. She yeets herself at the closest guard, snatching her weapon clean. The guard barely processes before she's on the ground, disarmed and humiliated. Caroline holds the stolen weapon high, roasting their border security. If this is their best, Willendorf has no chance against Anhalt. One of the guards, Adela von Ackerman, loses it. She's entertained. She's officially Team Caroline now. But there's a catch. Willendorf doesn't just care about intel, they care about worth. Caroline needs to prove she has the sauce. Adela, grinning like a cat with a trapped mouse, gestures behind her. Caroline turns, and there he is. MC, standing in the moonlight like divine punishment. Adela eats it up, calling him a beautiful beast. Caroline wants to explode. The guards refuse to fight MC, claiming he's not their problem. He one-shotted their fallen commander Reckenberg, making him the GOAT. Jumping him would be dishonorable. Caroline is officially surrounded by MC simps. She holds back her scream and insists he's not her type. Adela waves her off. Caroline must prove herself. She meets MC's gaze. He is waiting. He knows she has nowhere to go. The air is thick, The tension suffocates. The choice is an illusion. She will fight, she will survive, or she will die trying. Either way, MC is not leaving without a show. The border guards chant for Caroline to fight MC, hyped like it's the season finale of their favorite trashy reality show. MC walks up like a main character in a cutscene, sword in hand, radiating menace. Adela grins, enjoying the show, while Caroline realizes there's no backing out. She calls the guards barbarians for their bloodlust, but they're too busy cheering. She goes into full dramatic intro mode, listing her titles like a medieval LinkedIn flex and milking whatever clout she has left. She formally challenges MC like it's a WWE showdown, and the guards eat it up. MC stays quiet, just standing there like a final boss, which annoys Caroline. She demands he introduce himself instead of brooding. Adela is barely holding in her laughter. Finally, MC speaks, but instead of hyping himself up, he drops a cold, emotionless question. What's next for her? She lost everything, her land, her people, her dignity. Why not just take the L and die where she was born? The words hit hard, but Caroline refuses to let him be right. Even if she got shafted out of her inheritance, even if she lost everyone who mattered, as long as she remembers their sacrifices, it's not over. She refuses to die here, surrounded by giggling warrior women and a dude who looks like he was sculpted by the gods just to be annoying. MC chuckles, then fully laughs, realizing Caroline still has pride. He respects it, which somehow stings more than his insults. Then finally, he introduces himself, all formal and intimidating. They both understand, this is a real fight, no takebacks. MC nods, acknowledging her as a knight, so he'll fight her like one. No cheap shots, no mercy. He swings his sword, and the ground practically explodes. Caroline barely dodges before he's already on her, a one-way ticket to the afterlife in hand. The sheer force of his attack sends her stumbling, and she realizes just how outmatched she is. This man isn't strong, he's a monster. Their weapons clash, steel against steel, looking like a choreographed dance to outsiders, but feeling like pure survival mode to Caroline. She's button mashing while MC's on a perfect no-hit speedrun. And then she lands a hit. A clean slash across MC's face. The guards lose their minds. Caroline allows herself a half second of relief. Big mistake. MC moves again too fast. The sound of something shattering her weapon, then pain. A deep wound across her chest. Silence falls, the guards going from hype to oh no real quick. Caroline stares at the wound, her brain buffering. This wasn't part of the plan. Blood drips from her fingers and she almost laughs. Of course, it ended like this. Just another bad day in the life of Caroline, a professional punching bag, and part-time disappointment. Caroline watches her blood drip down MC's sword and starts laughing. Not the cool, intimidating kind, but the awkward, embarrassed kind. She mocks MC's oversized weapon, calling it compensation, but MC, ever the buzzkill, actually takes offense. He explains that it's a treasured family heirloom, probably the only thing in his bloodline that wasn't a disappointment. Caroline wheezes at that, but soon realizes she's bleeding out fast. Is this really it? Her whole arc, her ambitions, all leading to a pathetic game over. She won't even get VIP access to Valhalla. It's just some eternal hold line before she's booted into the Inferno. Everyone who died for her, all those sacrifices, and she's speedrunning relevancy. Then she thinks of Martina, her daughter, the only one who mattered. Imagining Martina watching this train wreck, she forces a weak, sarcastic flex. At least she landed a hit on MC, right? But reality hits harder. Spring was coming. Martina's birthday was soon. Instead of planning a party, Caroline is here, bleeding out in a dirt pit. She's on her knees now, looking like a tragic emo music video, her body shutting down. Adela, who's been treating this like a medieval UFC match, finally speaks up, calling the fight beautiful, which is an insane take given that Caroline is dying. But Adela is pure theater kid energy, itching for her own battle like a chihuahua ready to throw hands with a Rottweiler. MC, being the emotionally unavailable brick wall he is, doesn't care. He's more worried about Helga and the others. Meanwhile, the border guards are whispering among themselves, fangirling over Caroline for actually managing to hit MC. Meanwhile, Valerie and her army stumble in, looking like they just survived a 5-hour Black Friday brawl. No casualties, just bruised egos and unpaid overtime. Zabine, the chaotic gremlin, vibrates with excitement, yelling for everyone to start celebrating like they just won the lottery. But Valerie isn't feeling it. She stands in the middle of corpses, feeling nothing but static. The silence is heavy, like a party you don't want to be at. They won. They survived. But something doesn't feel right. Maybe it's the weight of leadership, the cost of survival, or just the fact that she hasn't eaten in 3 days. Zabine keeps pushing for celebration, but the mood isn't catching. Because at the end of the day, the dead don't care who won, they don't get to go home. And as Valerie stares at the battlefield, she wonders if any of this will ever feel like a real win. Helga recalls hitting up the village during the Great War and assumes it's abandoned, which fits their current suffering. No food, no water, just misery. They need to leave before things get worse. Their soldiers are beaten up, and picking the unlucky few for the rescue mission is the next step. The village chief, looking half dead, volunteers to lead but gets shut down by Valerie. Dude is literally limping. No way he's running a rescue. He sobs, but the pros are taking over. En route to the village, the women gossip about cute guys, ignoring Hannah's attempts to keep them focused. Zabine, fed up, snaps them back to reality. No simping, only revenge. Meanwhile, Valerie spirals, overwhelmed by the deaths. She asks for reassurance that no one else will die, but Helga just laughs. Welcome to war. Valerie breaks down further, and Helga distracts her by giving Zabine credit for her leadership. Valerie, however, worries that Zabine is carrying too much weight. Zabine brushes it off. People died, but that's war. As long as they get the kidnapped villagers back, it's a win. Deep down, she's still salty about MC letting Caroline escape, but Helga's praise gives her a boost. She daydreams about returning home, drinking like a menace, and maybe even settling down in the capital, totally not imagining a future with MC. Meanwhile, back on the battlefield, MC's horse is still standing there, just vibing, but suddenly its ears twitch. Through the bushes, an injured woman barely clings to life because this war just refuses to let anyone rest. One retainer of Caroline woke up from a nap. She thought she had arrived at Valhalla, or heaven in their world. She recalled Faust chasing after them while they ran away from Astarte. But the good one she recalled was Caroline wrapping her eye for her, and now she made it to Valhalla. She was relieved that she was acknowledged as a warrior, but having her right eye fixed would have helped. Anyway, she knew they deserved to die since they turned their fangs against Anhalt, but for her, making friends along the way is what makes things better as a fugitive. But now that she's there, it's time for her to rejoin her comrades and fulfill the promise they had to drink the finest wine of Valhalla. However, as she walked further and the rain slapped her back to reality, the Valhalla she was expecting wasn't nearly true. She was met by the sight of her comrades and people being left to rot at the hands of Faust, the Knight of Wrath. She couldn't believe that while her comrades were fighting for their lives, she was asleep and cheated death. With her alone, all that's left for her is the promise she made of the finest liquor of Valhalla, so she must go. Meanwhile, Valier and her knights just finished another battle and are looking for the hostages. They were shouting words of affirmation that they're there to help them and that they're the cool knights on their side. However, none of the poor boys were coming out, so they slightly doubted they were even there. Valier asked Helga what she thought Faust would do in this situation, to which Helga answered that if the kidnapped ones were Faust's people, he'd think the same as her. So she decided to split up and cover more ground to look for them, until finally one of the knights found them hiding on a chest at a house nearby. On the other hand, Zabine and Valier were assessing the situation, making sure the enemy's knights stayed down. For Zabine, the work of Faust is terrifying because the royal guards end up being just a side character in the end. For Valier, she thinks she's a side character too, risking the guard corps for children they don't even know and watching them like it's someone else's problem. She couldn't bear the thought that despite everyone getting hurt and fighting the battle she started, her hands remained clean in the end. She thought she had steeled her resolve to become a proper leader, but she still hasn't been able to take even a shred of that responsibility, so she's no different than before her first battle, cowardly, tearfully, and just a worm. However, Zabine thinks that it is Valier who is in the most danger, and besides, it doesn't make sense to her as to why their highest ranking commander is fighting. Still, Valier was depressed because she felt useless, which is why Zabine gave her a pep talk that if she wants to be a hero, saying that it is for the greater good as a noble is what she should be. But Valier is not a dictator and is too sensitive to see her people die for her, so Zabine made a deal that they should go out for a drink after all that work, and she can stake her life on that. Seeing Zabine smiling fully, Valier can't help but admire that, even though she's a scaredy cat. A few moments later, the rain got strong and Zabine couldn't help but be concerned for Her Majesty's health. Although getting wet is nothing more than putting your life at stake, they still can't have their precious princess get sick. So they put her in the house where the hostages were to dry out, while the others were assessing the situation and keeping the children calm. Although not every boy was as calm as the others, she got it under control. Meanwhile, Zabine went out to count the corpses. She remembered seeing 16 horses towards the village, and there are exactly 16 in total. but the carriage should have a driver, meaning there's one person missing. On the other hand, the other knights were talking about how it's a bore that they only saw gullible kids, but they shouldn't act immature because even though they can have fun, those kids will see them as big sisters who saved them and will stay in their hearts forever. Then one of them heard rustling behind, but it was hard to hear from the rain. That's when they saw a horse with a woman riding it jump above them. They were confused at first, but it must be a leftover enemy. In the middle of the place, Helga heard the warnings from the other knight about another person, but it was too late for her to react. A bow went her way and her arm was struck by this leftover enemy. She was chanting glory to Bosel while drawing her sword to fight Helga with her horse. The leftover enemy was ready to go all out with nothing to lose, just so she wouldn't be such a useless warrior during the real fight. But Helga is not to be underestimated. She took a limb from the horse and the leftover enemy fell on her side. Valier and the others from the stable saw the fight happening outside, but Hannah couldn't let the princess go out because it was hard to tell how many enemies were outside. Even if they screamed their voices out, it would be hard to call over the others with that heavy rain. Going back to Helga, Lady Karma was there to aid her, but she missed the swing and was blinded with mud by the enemy. The enemy then hit her with the horse's foot before drawing her sword and acknowledged Karma as a brave warrior, thinking they could be friends if they were to introduce each other again in Valhalla. But Helga refused to let that happen and fought back. They were in a sword fight with Helga fighting with one arm while the enemy was going all out. Helga was clearly disadvantaged, and later the enemy was able to swing Helga's sword away. Of course, she got a backup knife and fought back with everything she could to finish it off, but the enemy also refused to stop. The enemy assumed that it wasn't Astarte since the troop numbers were too small, but Helga couldn't let them find out about what was hiding in the stables, so she intended to finish her right now. However, the enemy got hold of Helga's injury, and they were both struggling to take the weapon from Helga's hand. The crowbow team arrived, and Helga gave words to shoot even if they hit her, but the enemy headbutt her so that she almost lost consciousness. Helga slumped to the ground, which gave the crossbows a clear opening. However, even with that, the enemy still refused to give up and took Helga as a hostage. The royal knights, on the other hand, also refused to lose to some no-name knight who came out of nowhere. The enemy's intention is to bring legacy to the warriors under Lady Caroline, and since they need to assess the situation, Valier decided to go out and face whoever it was. The enemy wants them to surrender or Helga dies, but as if she's gonna let that happen, so she ordered the crossbows to end it all for the sake of everyone. Besides, they are not to be underestimated as warriors under Polidoro. To them, their fight and that hostage kind of fight is nothing but a warm-up. Just when they were about to finish it, Valier introduced herself as Valier, the second daughter of Anhalt. The enemy then introduced herself as Ginyard and was acknowledged by Valier as braver than her, who was terribly afraid of her first battle with bandits, which turned into something far worse. And now they're here, caught in a battlefield of the people of the Crown Lands. She tells Ginyard that she's just a girl at her first battle, a coward who can't live up to a noble's duty. But she has her people waiting for everyone's honor, and to repay the courage of the people, she has to go back. Valier then reminded Ginyard that with an injury like that, she won't live long, so it would be better if she could lower her sword. Still, Ginyard refuses. She knows she's being persuaded, and even talking about resting in her hometown didn't help, because Bolsel is nothing but a land she refuses to love for casting Lady Caroline aside. All she has left is a promise she made to a friend. But Valier ought to point out that the fight has already been decided, with her being outnumbered. Still, it doesn't matter to her because she will fight to the very end. Ginyard demanded that she draw her sword for a single combat or she would take Helga. Everyone watching was getting aggressive at the refusal to give up, and they looked like they were about to tear her to pieces. But Valier remained composed and stopped her women from taking action unless she let go of Helga. Ginyard is a stubborn girl, so Valier had no choice but to show her no mercy by feeding her to her cat Zabine. With Zabine's attack, she was able to get a hold of Ginyard and slowly took her to Valhalla. Even with their victory, everyone remained silent, while Valier commanded them to take care of Helga. Zabine was relieved to know that the missing body might be Ginyard, but her face turned pale seeing a crossbow aimed towards Valier. It came from one of the terrified boys who saw and heard everything. To him, these knights were the ones at fault for everything. It was a dangerously close target, and Hana shoved the princess away and took the bullet for her. She was shot in front of the princess, who, once a coward, became a monster the second someone hurt one of the closest people to her.